Hey, what's up? What's up? It's your girl Erica, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. Happy Monday. I hope your week has gotten off to a great start. Of course, I'm here to do my weekly review of the Real Housewives of Atlanta. Of course, this was the first part of the reunion, and what can I say? It was a typical part one reunion. The reunion was boring, boring. The reunion was so boring because that's exactly what it was. I'm not lying. And that's typical for any franchise. It's not necessarily just the Real Housewives of Atlanta, guys. This happens on any one of your franchises, from Beverly Hills to Salt Lake City to Miami to Potomac. It doesn't matter. They're all pretty much the same in part one. Of course, the ladies, they come out, they want to be beautiful. They're sitting, they want to look very prim and proper. They don't really have a lot to say. They don't want to come out the gate fighting. But then by part two, they sort of loosen up. I guess hours have passed by, and then they're pretty much off to the races, and they want to get the reunion out of the way. But as far as this one is concerned, part one of Atlanta was boring. So of course, it opens up with the ladies. They're showing up to the studios in Atlanta, and they're getting their hair and makeup done. We noticed that Phaedra and Cynthia were actually looking for Britt. Britt was nowhere to be found. Of course, we know that Britt Edie did not show up because she actually has a lawsuit against Bravo, and we'll find out that she has another lawsuit, but we'll talk about that as we go on. And so Portia actually called Britt. Well, they asked Portia, had she spoken to Britt? She said, yeah. Britt said that her and Mike were coming to the reunion, but that did not happen. Portia attempted to actually call Britt while they were actually sitting in Portia's dressing room. Of course, Britt did not answer the phone. So we see that the reunion was already 2.5 hours late. I don't know why these girls they were on CP time the way they were, but that to me is disgusting. I've never seen them talk about any of the other franchises, from Married to Medicine down to the other franchises to Southern Charm. I've never known them to be 2.5 hours late. So of course, Andy Cohen was annoyed, but the girls started to come out one by one. And just as I said in my last review of the season finale, I also did a review of their reunion looks. And just as I said, those reunion looks were not great this season. I'm going to stick with what I said. Shamia looked absolutely gorgeous. It was perfect from head to toe, from her hair to the makeup to the dress. Everything, the appliques on the dress, beautiful. Angela also looked really, really nice. She looked very sophisticated, very classy when she came out. Portia, like I said, those were my top three. But when I looked at when I looked at her actual gown a lot more, the actual, I guess you would say the corset, the metallic gold corset, it was pretty. I liked it, but I wanted something different from Portia. The long nails, the big hair. I just wanted a different look. If Portia had gotten the dress that Portia had on in the season finale was gorgeous. If Portia had maybe done something like that in a gold, well, I don't know if it would have looked the same in a gold color, but if Portia had done something on that style, I think it would have been really, really nice. But this just kind of made Portia look, I'm going to say Portia looked a little bimbo-ish, if I can say that. It just looked like, I don't know, she said she got her breasts redone, but she just looked a little bimbo-ish. So, like I said, Shamia, Angela, kudos to you guys. The rest of the ladies, I was like floored. Like, they did not look nice. But, well, the color was pretty on them. The shade was beautiful on everyone. But I just didn't like the other style dresses. Phaedra, it was even worse. Like, when I saw the picture of Phaedra and they were showing clips of the reunion on television, I was like, oh, I can't stand it. I hate Phaedra's dress. I hate the headpiece. Well, when I saw it last night and they sort of zoomed in, it was even worse. Phaedra was horrible. And I cannot believe that Phaedra chose that or her stylist chose that for her. I just can't believe it. It was horrible. But anyway, we'll move on from that. I gave you a couple of minutes about that. I'm sorry to sort of ramble on about that, guys, but there really wasn't anything. So of course they come out. Andy told them that Britt was not going to be there. Kelly, she kind of rolled her eyes. The other ladies, some of them, I think Portia's side of the couch cared about Britt being there. The rest of them, Shamia's side of the couch, did not care if Britt was there or not. Drew did tell us that Britt, a couple of weeks prior to the reunion, that Britt actually filed a lawsuit against her. She was told that Drew was involved with the pictures that were revealed, or the photos that were revealed about her by Kenya. So she's suing Drew. She did not sue Kenya, but she's suing Drew. Now, we don't know if Drew had anything to do with it or not. Kenya says that Drew had nothing to do with it. Drew and Kenya are cool. They are friends, so I don't know if Kenya's covering for her. I don't know if Drew did a favor for Kenya and then it just all went bad, and so Kenya's just not going to say anything. We really don't know, but again, like I said, we will see where Britt's lawsuit falls out. And if you go back to maybe like my old videos, not old videos, I'm sorry, but maybe like the season finale or I'm going to say go back at least 2 of my reviews. I said Britt was going to sue anyone. If it weren't Bravo, it would have been Drew. If it weren't Drew, it would have been Kenya. If it weren't Kenya, she would have found a reason to find a way to sue someone, because it's just like a money grab for her. I can just tell that Britt is that type of girl, you know. So good riddance to Britt. We don't even have to see her anymore, and I don't think anything will come out of the lawsuits. But what Kelly said, I thought was true. Kelly said that, you know, Britt just plays the victim and the villain. So we saw, toward the end of the season, I could agree with a couple of things that Britt was saying, like about Shamia and some of the other ladies. Well, especially Shamia. She kind of like butted heads with Shamia. And I actually agree with Britt on a couple of things that she said. I thought it was actually spot on. But it was too late. It was like we got nothing else from Britt. The rest of the season, again, like Kelly said, she was the victim and the villain. And she played, and it was all in one. So I agree with Kelly when she said that. So Cynthia came out early because Portia and Phaedra were the only ones sitting on their side, and then there were 4 ladies on the other side. So there was Shamia, Angela, Kelly, and then Drew. Drew was at the end. Drew came in, was the last one to come in out of the ladies, but Drew definitely should not have been sitting at the end of the couch. Drew definitely deserved to be front seat, if not second seat. The first seat, if not second. I don't understand that, but it seems like production, and I don't know if Andy Cohen has anything to do with it, but production definitely has an issue with Drew. So Cynthia came out early. They talked about her friend of the Housewives role. She said that she's in a new relationship. They showed a picture of him. Not what I expected for Cynthia's boyfriend, but again, it's not my choice. If she's happy, then hey, who are we to even judge or say anything about it? She did say that he was 39 years old, and so this must be a new trend, not only with the Africans in Atlanta, but it seems like the older women in Atlanta are now dating super duper young. Phaedra said that she is dating Shek, and he is only 32 years old, so there is a 20-year age gap between them. And of course the same, well, not as much for Cynthia, but close enough, probably about 15, I'm gonna say about 15 years. But anyway, they are dating younger men. So they show Portia's package. Andy went really easy on Portia. Portia really had nothing to say. She couldn't answer for anything. She just said that she was glad that the divorce was over. She's back to herself. She feels much better. She can film in her marital home. Andy brought up the comment that Drew made about Portia was really a disappointment this season. She didn't give much. She used Drew as a storyline, and I agreed. I definitely agree with Drew's comments that she made on whatever, podcast or whatever show she was on. Portia said that she wanted to apologize to Drew because she was in fight mode. Well, we have seen Portia go through a number of breakups on this show. In season 6, Portia was in fight mode, but she never attacked any of the ladies. She sort of disappeared. She sort of hid herself. She did not want to come around. Nene said that she wasn't a good friend. So that was Portia in fight mode then. We saw Portia again in fight mode when she had the baby. Dennis cheated on her. Portia at that time was more or less attacking a little bit. She was attacking Eva a little bit. She didn't fully come out swinging, but she did. Her and Eva had a thing, and that was in season 12. Now we're in season 16, and Portia's back in fight mode again, and so Drew was her punching bag this particular season. I did not like it at all. I said it from episode 1 of this season. I said that Portia was going to use Drew as a punching bag. She wanted to sort of switch the narrative because she did not want anyone to ask her about Simon, and that's exactly what happened. Drew was her punching bag. All the other ladies got on board. The new ladies never got to know Drew. Even Cynthia, she was blowing in the wind. You know, on one end, she was laughing and kikiing with Drew, and on the other end, she was high-fiving Portia for how Portia was treating Drew. I did not like it. Portia said she wanted to be distant from Drew. She could never trust Drew. She even called Drew a low-down, dirty B.I. In the first episode, we saw it. And all of the accusations against Drew were completely false. She said that Drew was using Dennis to film. Dennis is probably the other way around because Dennis does want to be on the show. Also, we saw Drew in the she was actually in the studio with Dennis. They made a project. I Did It To Me is out all across, you know, all the platforms where you can get music, Amazon, Spotify, all of that. It is a great project. She said that Drew was doing that. Then she got angry with Drew. She said that Drew was trying to sleep with Dennis so that she could get studio time. That was a lie. She also said that Drew was sleeping with Dennis to actually make the music. That was a lie. Everything that she accused Drew of this season, it turned out to be false. Drew actually checked Portia. She said, look, she said, when I came onto this show in season 13, she said, you know, I was having issues with Ralph then. And she said, out of everyone, I called you the most. I talked to you and told you the truth about what was going on with me. And I trusted you. And that is true. That is 100% of the truth. Drew and Portia sort of forged a friendship, whether it was just for the show or not. I believe everything that Drew said. I know that Drew has been labeled a liar, but trust and believe people. And labels are dangerous because oftentimes with those labels, they stick with you. And oftentimes people they treat you according to what other people have said. And we see that Drew has been mistreated according to what Portia said. Everyone wanted to be friends with Queen Portia, and it didn't really work, you know. So Drew came out the winner in this. I know people don't like Drew for whatever reason, but she actually came out the winner in this because Portia looked dumb. Portia and foolish. Portia apologized to Drew, but to me it wasn't sincere. It was fake. The same way she said, you know, hey, I'm going to need some time. She should have told Drew, take all the time you need because I was wrong. I was in fight mode. Of course, she was playing the victim role herself. And it wasn't good enough for me. I know some people, I made that comment on Twitter/X, and some people were sort of, you know, it was a couple of people going back and forth with me, but I didn't respond because that is my opinion. That is the beauty of life. We all have our opinions about things, and I'm going to continue to say it. I said it, and I will continue to say it. Portia's apology to Drew was not good enough for me, for Erica. It was not good enough. If Drew accepts it, great, fine, we're moving on to next season. But for me, it wasn't good enough. And personally, everyone else other than Angela should have apologized to Drew. Kelly should have said, you know what, Drew, I didn't get to know you. You know, Shamia should have said, yeah, I jumped on the bandwagon because I was trying to protect my best friend and go hard for my best friend. But guess what? My best friend and I are at odds, and now I can see see that, yes, she was setting you up and I was in the midst of that. All of those girls should have apologized to Drew. Cynthia, you jumped on the bandwagon. I don't know what connection you had with Leon. I know that's your daughter's father, but at the same time, it's like you have married 2 other men since Leon. So I don't really know what all of that was about in taking Portia's side either. But either way, all of these ladies should, other than Angela, should have apologized to Drew. And I was actually surprised because Kelly was coming for Portia. Kelly, they played the clip where Kelly said, girl, you know, why did you take that woman's husband? And Kelly did not say it in a mean, vicious way. We saw it in episode 1. But, you know, of course, Portia wanted to respond to Miss Kelly with an eye about that. And Kelly told her, look, girl, you still have not given us a reason as to what happened. You still have not explained yourself. Everything you said about it was fake and it was a lie. Point blank, period. Portia had nothing to say. Angela sort of interrupted and she actually said, well, you know, Shamia, you were the one that told us that Portia you kind of hooked Portia up with Simon. And Shamia said, no, I didn't say that. So they kind of, you know, went back. They showed us the clip where she said, well, I was there when they met. That's what Shamia said. But so Angela was on track, but Shamia did not say those words specifically. But I do believe that Shamia was covering up for Portia. When they asked Portia how she met Simon, Portia could not give an answer. Y'all, literally, she was stumped. She was like, she couldn't say anything because she know that she met Simon the wrong way. Portia, you were dating someone else's husband. And whether you want to be honest about it or not, that is what it was. You started talking to Simon before he was away from Fallon. I don't care if they were separated. I don't care if they were getting a divorce. I don't care if their marriage was over. He was still legally married. And you started talking to him. And I know that that's embarrassing to you. I know it doesn't look good. You know, you had a great time as long as you were married to Simon. But now that you're away from the situation and people are coming down on you, you know that it looks bad, it sounds bad, and it makes you look like basically you're not a good person. Excuse me, guys. So, you know, whether Portia wants to admit it, whether she'll ever admit it, it doesn't matter. The truth remains that you and Simon hooked up while he was still married. So, Portia, your answer was the answer that we probably knew we were going to get from you. And that was, you took that woman's husband, but we got nothing from you. You're perfect, Portia. You're going to go on with your life. In a minute, you'll probably be dating someone else, and we'll see that soon. So then once again, because Portia is so beautiful and glamorous and she gives us fashion and all of those things, it will be all forgotten about next season. So that was it with that, guys. I mean, there wasn't really a lot to it, but I do applaud Kelly for sort of stepping up and just kind of, you know, saying, hey, you know, we're not getting anything from you, or you did not lie. So they were going back and forth even about their marriages, because Portia was saying, well, you were married too, you know, you were going through a divorce too. And, you know, Kelly said, no, it's different. I was with my husband for 11 years. You were with Simon for 11 months, and it's totally different. There was a lot of violence involved. There was a whole lot more. I have children by him. It was totally different. So Kelly she put her foot down. So I do appreciate Kelly for standing her ground in that sense. Angela and Phaedra started up a little bit, and let me just say this too, guys, it was funny. Drew didn't know how to take Portia's apology, and I just want to say, Drew, stand in it. You know, you don't have to, you know, move on and become friends with Portia or whatever, because Portia doesn't mean anything that she says. But Drew, take your time with those girls, because like I said, none of those girls treated you fairly. So Angela and Phaedra, they sort of got into it toward the end. And like I said, too, Andy Cohen was being a little biased to me. He wasn't as hard on Portia as he could have been. He sort of rushed through a lot of things. Even when Kelly was explaining things, he was kind of hard on Kelly. And to me, Kelly has been very forthright about what she's been going through. So I was a little shocked. You know, he was saying, well, you seem to be more into your dogs. You know, what's going on with the business. Kelly does not give me charade. She does not give me that she's going to come on here season after season and not produce. So I was a little shocked by Andy's, his bluntness toward Kelly. He seemed to be very he seemed to be going a little hard on Kelly. But tell me what you guys think if you saw that. Maybe, I saw something that you guys didn't see, but for me, I noticed that he was a little harsher on Kelly. He seemed to cut Drew and some of the other ladies off a little bit. I don't know if it was because they were late, or if it was just that, he was just sort of biased toward he was sort of biased, and he was sort of like Team Portia. But let me know, guys, what you think. So like I said, Angela and Phaedra, they started out talking a little bit about what was going on. Angela said that, Marcus and Phaedra have history. Marcus's sister went to school with Phaedra's brother or something like that. And, I'm still up in the air about whether Phaedra did it or not. I know she said Phaedra did it or not. I just can't see Phaedra doing it on one hand, but then on the other hand, Phaedra is capable of doing anything. Angela said that, and the thing that really makes me lean toward Phaedra doing it is because Angela said in the season finale, well, Phaedra, you called me and you told me that you knew exactly who he was, and whatever the case may be. So why would Phaedra say that on the season? Well, Phaedra said she knew Marcus. She told Angela on the phone she knew Marcus, but on the season, I'm sorry, on the reunion last night, she said she didn't know him. So that was kind of confusing. They're definitely going to have to clear that up in part 2, because that kind of threw me off. Phaedra, you have to know this guy. They talk about how small Athens is. You have to know this guy, or you have to know his family in some way. And you're an attorney. You can definitely find out who this guy is. And I do believe that you know him in some sort of way, because you would not have told Angela that. There would have been no reason for you to call. But Angela, she kind of, Angela jumped out the gate. She wants to get these girls straight. And she even said to Portia, she said, look, Portia, you seem to be supporting, Phaedra. You're standing 10 toes down for Phaedra, but you of all people should know exactly how Phaedra is. I mean, look at what she did to you. Have you forgotten, what you went through in season 9? Have you forgotten what Phaedra did to you? And Portia, again, was stumped. Portia had absolutely nothing to say. So that is how the reunion ended. Like I said, there's more to come. It's to be continued. That was really it, guys. This was a short review for me, and I'm normally I can, I can sort of improv and give you a little bit more. I normally have a lot more to say, but there really wasn't a whole lot to say, because there wasn't a whole lot to the reunion. But in the event that you haven't seen it, I hope I've given you enough to hold you over until you can actually watch it for yourself. Or I hope that I've just given you enough where you know exactly, what happened for the most part. But that's it, guys. Give me, like I said, like this video and subscribe to my channel. Leave me a comment. You don't even have to comment about the show. If you just want to say hello to me, I would greatly appreciate that. And if you want to comment on the show, hey, give me your opinion. Tell me what you thought about part 1 of the reunion, about the reunion looks. I mean, how did you feel about the reunion? Did you think that Portia was sincere in her apology to Drew? What do you think about Angela versus Phaedra? Are you on Phaedra's side, or are you on Angela's side? Let me know in the comments, and I would greatly appreciate it. I will see you guys next time. Again, have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful week. If something else comes up, I will be right back in the YouTube streets to let you guys know. But in the interim, have a great week, and I will see you next time. Bye.